Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our weekly tip for tips for mortgages. My name is Jaden Bax of Avenue Financial out by Crossfield, Alberta. Joined as always by my cousin, the main man, Mike Parkinson from DLC out in Campbell River. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Jaden. Thanks for having
That's
me.
great. Yeah, no, well, it's always great
I'm
to
here
get
at
together.
least.
Yeah, it's great to get together on a weekly basis. And we just wanted to give general information, make sure that you all kind of understand the background of what's going on with mortgages to make it easier when you go to get a mortgage. So this week our topic is something that there's a lot of confusion around, but seems incredibly straightforward, and that's income.
Right.
This is the biggest thing when I have somebody fill out my mortgage application, and they put in an income, and people generally speaking have no idea how much they make for mortgage purposes, right? So
Right.
we're just going to break it down really quickly, go through a few different things to think about, and start with the simplest, of course, which is salaried income. So if you're employed permanent full time with your employer, and you are making a salary of $80,000 a year, no matter how much you work, or if you miss time, that you are making $80,000 a year. You're making $80,000 a year, and it's
Right.
very, very easy for us to prove. All we need is a pay stub and a job letter, your most recent pay stub and a job letter. If those numbers match up, absolutely, there's $80,000 a year. But there's a lot of different kind of hourly things where the person says, "Well, I'm basically salaried. I get an hourly rate, and I'm guaranteed 40 hours a week, so I'm salaried." But it's not the same thing, is it, Mike? There's some differences there.
Yeah. Like hourly is basically, you're guaranteed 35, 30, 35, 40 hours a week at X, dollar per hour, 26, 30, $40 an hour. So what Jade and I typically would do in all these situations is we always ask for like past T4s up front. Because the good thing about T4s, even if you're salaried at 80 grand a year, you might make 100 because of bonuses or not overtime because you're salaried, uh, bonuses, or maybe something special you get from the back from your employer. So we can actually bump your income up even higher to help you qualify for more. We get pay stubs, we get employment letters. We always try to get all this stuff ahead of time, so we really, really do know what you're making. So when it
Yeah.
comes time to for your live deal, then there's really not a lot of problems. So, but the biggest thing we want to understand is if you are guaranteed a salary or making guaranteed 40 hours a week at certain rate, is we want your pay stub to match that. So if your salary if your employment letter says you're salaried at 80 grand a year, but your pay stubs for the year are showing that you're nowhere near that, then we have to try to figure something out, right? So that's really important to get the right documentation to back up what we're saying. So.
Absolutely. And that goes with a pay stub. So if you have your most recent pay stub, and you're guaranteed 40 hours a week, you're paid bi-weekly, so you should have 80 hours on there, and you come in with, 72 hours or something like that,
Yeah.
we're going to say to you, where is well, I took a day off for the doctor. And so there's just a little bit more back and forth with that. Another thing that we see quite often is those guys who are hourly, or that get significant bonuses or overtime
Correct.
or all of that kind of things. They say, well, you know what, I made $130,000 last year, so I make $130,000. Well, maybe you do, but maybe you don't. When you have that bonus income, that overtime income, that income over your base rate that you want to use to bump up your income, we need to do a 2-year average. And so if you made $130,000 last year, but the year prior it was only 80 because you only worked your base rate, um, there's a limit there to how much we can do on the 2-year average as well. So we would take that 210 and say you make 105, but some lenders would say, well, really, like, that difference between 130 and 80 is too much. We're going to bump them down even a little bit more than that, right? So the biggest thing, like, people get frustrated sometimes about having to supply the job letter and the pay stubs and the T4s and the notice of assessments, T1 generals, all that kind of stuff up front. But the reason that we do that is that we want to know exactly what we can do for your income, and how much we can push the envelope, how high we can put it, because we will always want to try and maximize things for you, and then you can kind of work backwards from there.
Exactly. And lenders are going to want to, when it comes time for a live deal, lenders are going to look at everything like with a fine tooth comb, right? So that's what we're trying to do ahead of time. Yeah, we will need, if you don't buy within a month or two, we will need updated documents, most recent pay stub. We may even need an employment letter, new employment letter with the current date on it. So there's things that I let my clients know. I say, look, we're not done here. This is just giving me a really good idea. And I think good mortgage brokers, if they're not doing it, then they're not doing their job properly, because they're just going by your word. And sometimes your word can be wrong. Not that you're doing it on purpose. You're just not sure. A lot of people just don't really know how much they do make, really, and if there is options to actually bump it up or not. So that's something that we really work hard at doing. So.
Yeah, and it's because if you honestly, like if you're working with a broker or bank or something who's not asking for any of those documents, just go online. Just do an online mortgage calculator. There's nothing different than that, because without the documents, we can't do any of this, right? So, honestly, before we go, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, so those are kind of the simple. You have a job, and that's how we do things. A lot of people come up to us as well and say, well, I can't qualify for a mortgage because I am self-employed.
Right.
It's just, as I've never been able to qualify for a mortgage. I can't because I'm self-employed and I don't have regular income, and that's bumpkiss. Like you can absolutely qualify for a mortgage self-employed. And there's a couple of ways you can do it. The first of them is with verifiable income, and that means that basically everything that passes through your company, other than the expenses, passes straight into your account, and you pay taxes on that, right? And so that we would do that just like an employed person. We would get all the files behind that, get your T1 generals and your notice of assessments, and do a 2-year average. And work things out that way. And so that's for somebody who pays themselves pretty healthily out of their companies. But a lot of incorporated people in Canada like to use that incorporation to maybe decrease their personal earnings as well. And there's options for those people as well out there, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are either sole proprietors, like you just mentioned, and they basically do write-offs. Their gross income's 100 grand and their net income 75 grand. So as long as we do a 2-year average of that, we can actually increase that by 15% typically. Yeah. That's what they allow. But people that are, corporations, incorporated, that kind of thing, they can pay themselves. They can actually T4 themselves, and they can dividend themselves. So different versions of how their income comes in. And many times we can still gross up their T4 amounts, but not their dividends. So we need a 2-year average of both. So that's why there's way more documentation for that. But another option is we call it a stated income. If you're self-employed, most lenders have, if you put less than 20% down through the insurer, they have a stated income program where we can state your income as long as it makes sense, higher than what your net is. But it has to make sense, and we can never state it higher than what your actual gross income is. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes when you're working with self-employed people, but there's way more documentation. So it's something you have to be prepared for up front. We want to make sure that you don't owe past income tax as well, because that's really important when you're self-employed. Lenders are going to want to make sure of that. So way more documentation, a little bit more work behind the scenes, but it's totally doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's, at the end of the day, what we're trying to say with all of this is that you very likely don't know exactly what your income is coming in. We are going to ask you, and we're going to talk to you about this, but we're going to ask you for a lot of documentation.
Right.
Don't get frustrated with us. Be patient. We're trying to give you the most accurate number possible. And the only way to do that is the document. So if you're thinking about this, you're starting your home buying journey, and just don't know how much you qualify for. First step is a pre-approval that is actually underwritten by a mortgage broker. Give Mike a call in BC, me a call in Alberta. If you're anywhere else in Canada, we're happy to help you as well. So call either of the numbers below, whether you like the guy with the shiny head or the guy that's a little bit
shiny head guy.
You call either of us. Happy to talk to you. Anything else before we go, Mike?
No, just like I said, there's I guess having your plan in place before you buy makes your purchase way less stressful. It just gives us a way more options to even look at and be a little bit more secure on what we're looking at. So that's what I recommend: getting your pre-approval organized, getting your documents up front. We may need more documents down the road. Always tell my clients that nothing's guaranteed. Lender could ask for this, the insurer could ask for this, but at least we're pretty much prepared. So it'll make your buying experience that much better. So yeah, That's it.
Absolutely, and takes a little bit of stress off our plate. We're happy to be stressed to make it less stressful for you, but we think it's less stressful for all if we collect that credit. So thanks for joining us again this week. Great to see you again, Mike, and we'll see you all
too.
next week.
See you later.
Okay, bye, guys.